The alien girl screamed as the Vidian guards dragged her roughly through the halls of the summit center, while the human diplomats watched with anger simmering in their eyes. 5 hours earlier, Nathan Ward sat at the diplomatic summit table on the Vidian homeworld, feeling like an unwelcome guest at dinner, trying to ignore the Vidian delegates' snide comments and condescending stares. The other alien races didn't treat the human representatives much better. To most of the galaxy, humans were still considered primitive, barbaric carnivores, tolerated only for their potential usefulness as soldiers and explorers. Then the young Vidian girl, Rigel, brazenly stood up and questioned the wisdom and morality of the High Council's policies. The Vidian delegation froze in shock. Such impertinence from a youth was unheard of in their rigid, protocol-obsessed culture. "This girl is a traitor to the Vidian matriarchy," the head Vidian diplomat shouted. "Guards, seize her!" Armored Vidian guards stormed into the chamber to arrest Rigel. But in a shocking turn of events, Rigel raced across the room and prostrated herself in front of the humans, tears streaming down her face. "I beg asylum of the human delegation," she cried out. "Do not let them take me." Murmurs of outrage rippled through the Vidian delegation. The other alien diplomats shifted awkwardly, refusing to look at Rigel or the humans. Nathan looked into Rigel's pleading eyes and knew he could not turn her away, no matter the consequences. He stood slowly, squaring his shoulders. "By the ancient laws of Earth, I grant this girl asylum with the Terran delegation," Nathan declared. "She is now under our protection." Chaos erupted in the chamber as the Vidian ambassador demanded the humans surrender the girl. The other alien races withdrew to the sidelines, unwilling to jeopardize their ties to the powerful Vidian matriarchy. Even Rigel's own family stood and publicly disowned her, proclaiming her exile from the Vidian species for her shameful betrayal. Through it all, Nathan and the human diplomats stood firm, shielding a shaking Rigel behind a wall of grim-faced men and women. They would not abandon this brave girl to face unjust punishment, even as the Vidian threats escalated and the other races condemned humanity's actions. The Vidian ambassador gave the humans one final ultimatum, his scales rippling in fury. Turn over the girl or face sanctions, embargoes, and hostility from the entire Orion sector. Despite the high stakes, Nathan shook his head. Rigel had lawfully requested asylum, and he would not betray that sacred trust. The enraged Vidians stormed out, vowing to make the humans pay for this insult. The other alien delegations soon followed, leaving ominous silence in their wake. Nathan looked around at the other grim-faced human diplomats, then down at a tearful Rigel. They all understood the repercussions to come, but they would not sacrifice their principles for political expediency. Humanity would protect this girl, no matter the cost. And if that meant facing the wrath of the galaxy, so be it. As the gravity of the situation sank in, Nathan Ward sprang into action. He turned to his trusted friend and head of security, former Marine Jack Hawkins. "Jack, I need you and your team to get Rigel to our diplomatic shuttle immediately. Keep her safe at all costs." Jack nodded, his expression resolute with persistence. "You got it, Nathan. We'll protect her with our lives." While Jack and his security detail hustled Rigel out of the chamber, Nathan hurried to the communications room. His fingers flew over the subspace transmitter as he sent an emergency message to Earth, detailing the unfolding crisis and imploring the United Earth government for swift military aid. Heart pounding, Nathan raced to catch up with Jack and Rigel. As they approached the hangar bay, a phalanx of heavily armed Vidian security personnel blocked their path. The Vidian commander, a hulking reptilian male named Zoran, stepped forward with a sneer. "Surrender the traitorous girl at once," Zoran barked. "Your actions violate our sovereignty and will not be tolerated." Nathan squared his shoulders and stared back defiantly. Rigel is under the protection of the United Earth government. Any attempt to seize her will be considered an act of war. Zoran snarled, his scales rippling with barely contained rage. Human and Vidian weapons snapped up to aim at one another as the standoff intensified. Just as it seemed violence would erupt, a miracle happened. A massive fleet of UEG Navy ships suddenly dropped out of warp, filling the skies above the Vidian homeworld. The flagship broadcast a booming message across all frequencies. This is Admiral John Grayson of the UEG Navy. Earth will consider any attempt to harm our delegates or the girl as an act of war. Stand down immediately. Nathan felt a surge of relief at the sight of his old friend's ship. The Vidians, faced with the military might of the humans, grudgingly lowered their weapons and backed away. Under the watchful guns of the human fleet, Nathan, Jack, and the security team escorted Rigel safely aboard Grayson's flagship. Once in the Admiral's quarters, Nathan grasped Rigel's trembling hands and looked into her eyes. "You're safe now," he promised. "The United Earth government will do everything in our power to protect you and ensure your freedom." Tears streamed down Rigel's face as she choked out her gratitude. "Thank you. Thank you for being the only ones willing to stand up for what's right." As the UEG fleet prepared to depart Vidian space with Rigel under their protection, news of the incredible incident spread across the galaxy like wildfire. Some races applauded humanity's principled stance. Others condemned the humans for violating intergalactic law and destabilizing the delicate galactic balance. Pundits on 100 worlds debated whether humanity's actions proved they were a dangerously unpredictable species that couldn't be trusted. Amid the swirling controversy, a new threat emerged. Nathan received an urgent report from UEG intelligence. They had intercepted Vidian communications revealing that a covert Vidian Black Ops unit called the Shadow Blades was planning to capture Rigel and make a brutal example of the humans. Nathan clenched his fists, knowing the elite Shadow Blades would stop at nothing to achieve their sinister goals. Rigel was still in grave danger. He strode to the bridge to confer with Admiral Grayson and Jack Hawkins. Together, they would have to harness all the grit and resourcefulness of humanity to keep Rigel safe, uncover the Shadow Blade's insidious plans, and avert a catastrophic breakdown in human-alien relations. The stakes had never been higher, but Nathan knew one thing for certain. No matter the odds, he and the humans would never stop fighting for what was right. Admiral Grayson's voice boomed through the intercom. "All hands, prepare for immediate departure, executing blind jump in T-minus 30 seconds. Nathan rushed Rigel through the corridors of the flagship, security personnel flanking them on all sides. They reached the VIP quarters just as the ship lurched into FTL. "Stay here," Nathan told Rigel. "We'll keep you safe." The girl nodded, her eyes wide with fear and uncertainty. Hours later, Nathan stood on the bridge as Grayson revealed their location, an uninhabited system far from any known worlds. But the Admiral's face was grim as he pulled Nathan aside. "We've got a problem," Grayson said in a low voice. "UEG intelligence intercepted a transmission. The Shadow Stalker is en route. We've got a mole." Nathan's stomach dropped. "How long do we have?" "Not long. We need to debrief Rigel now." They found Jack already in Rigel's quarters, his hand on his sidearm as he scanned for threats. Nathan and Jack listened intently as Rigel described the Shadow Blades. "They believe any dissent threatens the very fabric of Vidian society," Rigel explained, her voice shaking. "They'll stop at nothing to silence me." Nathan placed a hand on her shoulder. "We won't let that happen." Suddenly, alarms blared. Grayson's voice crackled over the comm. "Shadow Stalker detected! All hands to battle stations!" The ship rocked violently as plasma torpedoes slammed into the fleet. Status reports flooded in, 2 escort frigates obliterated in seconds. "Get to Rigel!" Nathan shouted to Jack as he sprinted for the bridge. Jack and his security team raced through the corridors. They rounded a corner and came face to face with a squad of Shadow Blade commandos. Plasma bolts filled the air as both sides dove for cover. "Protect Rigel at all costs," Jack yelled, returning fire. On the bridge, Nathan found Grayson coordinating the fleet's defense. The Shadow Stalker's superior technology was decimating their forces. "We can't hold out much longer," Grayson growled. Nathan's comm crackled. It was Jack, his voice strained. "Nathan, Rigel's safe, but I'm hit, can't move." "Hold on, Jack, I'm coming." Nathan sprinted back through the chaos-filled ship. He found Jack slumped against a wall, clutching a wound in his side. Rigel huddled behind him, terrified but unharmed. "Go!" Jack rasped. "Get to the bridge, I've got this." Torn, Nathan nodded and raced back to Grayson. The Admiral's face was etched with relentless drive as the battle raged outside. Without warning, proximity alarms screamed. The Shadow Stalker was on a collision course. "Brace for impact," Grayson roared. The ships collided with a deafening crash of metal. Emergency force fields flickered to life, but it wasn't enough. Nathan watched in horror as Vidian commandos poured through the breach, weapons blazing. The Shadow Blades had arrived. The Shadow Blades poured through the breach like a swarm of angry hornets. Nathan's comm crackled to life. "Jack, get Rigel to the auxiliary shuttle bay now." Jack grimaced, pressing a hand to his wounded side. "Copy that." He turned to his security team. "Cover fire! Move!" Plasma bolts sizzled through the air as Jack's team laid down suppressing fire. Rigel bolted from her quarters, eyes wide with terror. The ship rocked violently, throwing her off balance. Jack steadied her. "Keep moving." They raced through embattled corridors. Rigel's breath caught in her throat as she saw a Shadow Blade commando viciously cut down a human crewman. The Vidian's eyes locked onto her. He raised his weapon. Rigel froze. Time seemed to slow. A burst of gunfire erupted from behind her. The Shadow Blade dropped. Lieutenant Marcus Reyes appeared, his face etched with fierce concentration. "This way!" They sprinted for the shuttle bay, ducking and weaving through the chaos. Admiral Grayson stood there in full combat armor, gesturing urgently toward a sleek combat shuttle. "Get her aboard, Reyes!" Marcus guided Rigel into the shuttle. Grayson's voice was tense. "Get to Rylithor 4. Omega team is waiting." The shuttle's engines roared to life. Rigel caught a final glimpse of Jack's pale face before the hatch sealed. On the bridge, Nathan joined Grayson as Shadow Blades stormed in. "All weapons! Concentrate fire on the Stalker!" Grayson bellowed. The remaining human ships unleashed everything they had. The Shadow Stalker's hull buckled and warped under the barrage. A violent shudder ran through the flagship. Warning klaxons blared. "Tractor beam locked," an officer shouted. "We're being pulled into the gas giant's gravity well." Nathan and Grayson shared a grim look. There was only one option left. "Initiate warp core overload," Grayson ordered. "All hands, abandon ship." They raced for the last remaining shuttle. Commander Aaron Jacobs was already at the controls. The instant they were aboard, she punched it. Behind them, the flagship and Shadow Stalker vanished in a blinding flash as the warp core breached. In the combat shuttle, Marcus pushed the engines to their limits. Rigel huddled in her seat, shaking. A proximity alarm blared. "Vidian pursuit craft," Marcus snapped. "Hang on." The shuttle jinked and rolled, narrowly evading plasma bolts. Rylith 4's icy surface loomed ahead. Without warning, a shimmering wave of energy slammed into them. Consoles sparked and died. "We're hit," Marcus shouted. "Brace for impact." The shuttle plummeted toward the frozen landscape. Marcus fought the controls, managing to level out just before they slammed into the ice. They skidded to a stop. Rigel's ears rang in the sudden silence. "Everyone out," Marcus ordered. "Move!" They scrambled from the shuttle. A barrage of weapons fire rained down as the Vidian craft swooped overhead. "Into the caves!" Marcus shouted. He grabbed Rigel's arm, half dragging her toward a network of icy tunnels. They plunged into darkness, the sounds of pursuit echoing behind them. Rigel's lungs burned in the frigid air. How long could they last in this frozen hell? Marcus's voice was grim in the darkness. "Keep moving. It's our only chance." The icy tunnels seemed endless as Marcus Reyes led Rigel and the Omega team deeper into the labyrinth. Their ragged breaths echoed off the crystalline walls, mingling with the distant sounds of pursuit. "Keep moving," Reyes urged, his voice low and tense. They rounded a corner and froze. Before them yawned a massive crevasse, its depths lost in inky blackness. A narrow bridge of ice spanned the chasm, no wider than a man's shoulders. "Shit," Reyes muttered, eyeing the treacherous crossing. The sound of plasma fire grew closer. He made a swift decision. "We split up. Johnson, Taylor, You're with me. We'll draw their fire. The rest of you get Rigel across that bridge. Rigel's eyes widened. But... No time to argue. Reyes cut her off. Go. Now. As Reyes and his two operators peeled off, Rigel and her escorts inched onto the ice bridge. The surface was slick, each step precarious. Rigel's heart hammered in her chest as she focused on putting one foot in front of the other. Suddenly, a deafening boom shook the cavern. A wave of energy rippled through the ice, dislodging massive shards from above. Rigel looked up in horror as a chunk of ice the size of a shuttle plummeted towards them. "Run!" one of the operators shouted. They sprinted across the bridge, but it was too late. The impact shattered the ice beneath their feet. Rigel felt the world drop away as she plunged into the abyss, her scream lost in the roar of collapsing ice. Reyes heard the distant cries as he exchanged fire with the pursuing Vidians. His gut twisted, but he pressed on, providing covering fire as his two remaining teammates retreated deeper into the caves. A plasma bolt seared past Reyes's head, melting the ice beside him. He returned fire, downing one of the Shadowblade commandos, but there were too many. As Reyes stood to provide suppressing fire, a bolt caught him square in the chest. He crumpled to the ground, his last thoughts of Rigel and the mission he had failed. Far below, Rigel stirred. Her body ached, the intense cold seeping into her bones. She blinked, trying to focus in the dim light filtering down from above. Beside her lay the still forms of her protectors, their bodies broken by the fall. A low rumble filled the air. Rigel turned, her breath catching in her throat. From the shadows emerged a creature of impossible size and alien design. Its flesh rippled with bioluminescence, casting an eerie glow across the ice. Where its eyes should have been, there was only smooth, ancient skin. Rigel lay paralyzed as the Leviathan's eyeless gaze fixed upon her. Its massive head tilted, as if considering this tiny intruder. Plasma fire rained down from above as the remaining Vidian commandos reached the edge of the crevasse. The ancient creature reared up, enraged by the assault. Its maw gaped open, revealing rows of crystalline teeth. A beam of searing energy erupted from its throat, incinerating the Vidians in an instant. As silence fell once more, Rigel found herself alone with the primordial beast. Its presence filled her mind, vast and incomprehensible. Images and sensations flooded her consciousness. The birth and death of stars, the rise and fall of countless civilizations, the very fabric of space-time itself. Rigel's mind expanded, touching the infinite. In that moment, she understood truths beyond mortal comprehension. The universe unfolded before her, revealing its deepest secrets. Days passed in what felt like both an eternity and an instant. When Rigel finally emerged from the frozen moon in a battered shuttle, she was forever changed. Her eyes held the weight of eons as she docked with Grayson's flagship. Nathan and Grayson listened in stunned silence as Rigel recounted her experience. The cosmic revelations she shared shook them to their core. "My God," Nathan whispered. "The Vidians, they never understood. How could they?" Grayson's face was grim. "This knowledge, it's too much. If word gets out..." Nathan nodded slowly, the weight of what must be done settling heavily upon him. "I know." He turned to Rigel, his expression pained. "I'm sorry, but we can't let you return. The risk is too great." Rigel's eyes shimmered with understanding beyond her years. "I know," she said softly. As Rigel's shuttle disappeared into the void between galaxies, Nathan stood on the bridge, his chest tight with regret. Grayson's words offered little comfort. "We make the hard calls," the Admiral said. "It's what we signed up for when we reached for the stars." Nathan watched the empty expanse of space, haunted by the choice he had made. The burden of command had never felt heavier.
You have reached the end of the story. If you enjoyed this story and want to support us, please leave a like and subscribe to our channel, and for every comment that says 88, I will heart every single one of them. Thank you for your time.